You probably all know someone that overshares, that shares so many things, even if you have just met them, that makes you feel uncomfortable, icky, and you don't really know how to respond. And especially in organizations, in the workplace, it's a question that needs to be discussed. How much, especially as a leader, should you be sharing with your teams? So in today's video, that is the fourth video in my little book review of Brené Brown's Dare to Lead, I want to talk a bit about how to be vulnerable with your team as a leader and how to do it right without oversharing or without sharing too little. But first, we need to address a little misconception about vulnerability. And Brené Brown describes it as too many people think that vulnerability is disclosure. And what she thinks the reason for that is that many people are just a little bit familiar with her work. Maybe they remember hearing about the TED Talk. They didn't really do enough research on it, and just based on the little that they know, they add up all the things and come to false conclusions. That vulnerability is disclosure, and it basically means hanging out your dirty laundry for everyone to see. But that's not really the core of what it is about. She talks about leaders that are super vulnerable yet share very little of personal information. And then, like I mentioned before, there's people who share a lot, but they don't really have the skills to, the way she calls it, rumble in vulnerability. And when we overshare, what we're subconsciously trying to do is hotwire connection and trust with someone. We think that if we share a lot and are super vulnerable, we actually build a connection. But that's not always true. It leaves people very uncomfortable. Actually, one of the reasons why these connection cards that I created, Ask Deep Questions, have 3 different levels and vulnerabilities only the 3rd level, is because you can't just jump into vulnerability. It's like jumping into the deep end of the pool without knowing how to swim. You have to get used to the water first, and then you take small steps one at a time, and only by the end you can be vulnerable with someone and actually make it connect. If one person is here at vulnerable and the other person is just at the beginning level, you're not going to create a strong connection. In Brené Brown's book, she talks about this example of this young CEO that approached her after one of her talks and was quite excited to get into vulnerability with his team. And she says that somebody being excited to be vulnerable is already a red flag. And when he told her what he was about to share with his team and investors, that he was in all over his head, that he was losing a lot of money, and that he basically didn't know what he was doing, she was a little bit concerned, because by him sharing this kind of sensitive information and what he thinks is being vulnerable, he's actually hoping for in some weird way that by sharing this, he will be able to avoid being rejected. He will avoid feeling shame and guilt. And in some magical way, people will not think that he's a bad person. Brené Brown calls this fake vulnerability. And vulnerability is not a sympathy-seeking tool. It's not hoping that they will feel sorry for you and therefore you create a connection. In actually going in with that intention is quite manipulative. And intention is actually the most important thing when it comes to vulnerability. Every time before you share something vulnerable, ask yourself, why? Why are you sharing this? Are you looking to avoid a certain feeling, or is it because you're actually leaning into that uncomfortable feeling? And I personally believe that anytime we lean into these uncomfortable feelings, it's a huge opportunity for growth. Yet, it's scary, and most of us don't do it very often. If you like this video, if this was helpful, please let me know in the comments below. I'll be posting more videos about my lessons that I'm learning from this book and other books. And in the next video, I'm planning to share about the #1 thing that teams need to even be able to be vulnerable and feel safe and speak up and really rumble with vulnerability, because to me that's one of the key things to building cohesive teams, to be able to innovate, to be able to be creative and learn from failure. There's so much that I think this is the first step. So I will share with you that tip and a little exercise in the next video. I'll see you there.